Hey guys, what's up? And welcome to another lesson. Today you're going to talk about object types. And when working with Blender, especially with a scene, you need to work with objects. And there are plenty of objects available in Blender, and each object type is distinct. So it means that it has its own unique set of properties. You can find a list of object type by just clicking on the add menu up here, or just by pressing Shift A on your keyboard. As you can see, using this menu, you can add meshes, you can add curves, you can add text, you can add a camera, you can add a light. And each of these object types, they have their own object types inside it. So it means that if you go to mesh, you can find other kind of a lot of kind of mesh. So for example, a plane, a cube, a cylinder, a monkey. Or if you go to the light, you can find different types of light. So for example, a point light, a sunlight, a spotlight, an area light. Okay, same for curves, surface, the volume, and other ones over here. Okay, guys, so one very important thing about object types. Okay, so each object type has its own set of properties. So for example here, if I select the mesh, if I select this cube, you can see that an object property appears to this menu on the right side. But if I select the camera, that object property disappears from this menu, and now I have a camera property. And the same for the light. If I select the light, now I can see the camera property. I just can see the light property. So for example, if I want to find the vertex group, I can't find it by just clicking on the camera, because the camera doesn't have the object properties. So it means that each object, as I said previously, has its own set of properties. So it's very important to be aware of that. Otherwise, you'll be lost in Blender. Because sometime we are going to talk about, I don't know, have to increase the focal length of your camera. So you need to be in the camera. Otherwise, you can't increase the focal length, because if you are on the mesh properties or you are on the light property, you won't be able to find the focal length, because the light property, the light object, it doesn't have a focal length. Okay, so this is very important to be aware. Otherwise, you'll be lost when you start modeling things and creating things. So keep it in mind. Okay, guys? Okay, guys, so let's get started and let's add some object types. By default, Blender comes with 3 types of objects: the camera, the cube, and the light. Okay, so let's add a mesh, for example. So Shift A, and then go to, maybe let's select a cylinder, for example. So as you can see, the cylinder is inside the cube. But if you want to move it to other side, you have to go to this button over here that represents the movement. And now these arrows appear on the cylinder, and you can move it by just clicking on the arrow and dragging it to the right. And if you want to place or create an object in a specific place, you have to set the cursor on a specific position. So for example, if I go to this button over here that represents the cursor, and just click on anywhere on the viewport, let's say here. And now if you press Shift A and add, for example, cone, now the cone is placed exactly where you place the cursor. Okay, so let's try another one. Let's place the cursor over here. And let's add, for example, a light, so a sunlight. Let's try another one. I will place the cursor over here, and let's add another camera. Very nice. So let's try maybe put the cursor over here and add another mesh, another cube. But let's say that I want to add a mesh in the center of the 3D world. How can I do that? If you press Shift S and select the let me see, where is it? Cursor to the world origin, and then the cursor is in the center of the world. Okay, so now if you try to add another object, Shift A, and I don't know, let's say the monkey. Now the monkey is centered in the center of the world. Okay, so let's say that you can't find, for example, I don't know, the cone. So if you go to the outliner window and type, for example, cone, and by just clicking twice on the cone, you are going to select your cone. And the same for, let's say you are not finding the monkey. So let's type actually the name of monkey, the name of the monkey is Suzanne. So you have to type Suzanne. And now if you just double click on it, and you are going to select it. Okay guys, so now that we have an idea of how to add objects, let's take a look on other objects and also take a look on the cursor. We learned that if I place the cursor in somewhere on the viewport, anything that I create will be placed on the exactly point where the cursor is, right? So for example, if I create a cylinder, it goes directly to where I place the cursor. But one thing that I didn't mention was that if I place the cursor, for example, over here, it automatically snap on the cube. Or if I place the cursor over here, it snap to the cylinder, okay? So let's snap it on this face, for example, and let's create another cube. Shift A and cube, right? So let's say that you don't want it and you want to deselect this kind of tool. So if you go to this menu over here and deactivate this surface project. Now if I click, for example, here, it is not snapped on the cylinder anymore. So it's just somewhere like in the middle of where I was and where the cylinder is. So this is important because sometimes you need or you don't need it. So you need to know where to turn on and turn off it. Okay? So let's talk about another important thing, that is the segments of some objects that we can add. Okay, so for example, let me delete this one and let's add a cylinder again. As you can see, by default, when you add a cylinder or when you add a sphere, a menu down here appears, and if you click on this menu, you can add more vertices, you can add more depth, you can make it bigger, and it always depends on the kind of object that you create. So here, for example, you can add more vertices, so you can give more detail to your model, or you can leave it as a low poly, for example. Also, the size, and actually this is the radius of the cylinder and the depth. So let's try a sphere. Here you can see that I have segments and rings. So here, if I change the segments and change the rings, you can see how it works. Okay, let's put 6 and 6, or maybe 3 and 3. And you can increase radius and you can change the location of this sphere, and to be precise where you want it. But one thing that's very important about it is that if you, for some reason, you click on other object, you're gonna see that you lose this information. If you go back and click on the cylinder again, the information that you were working on disappear and you actually lose it. So be aware of that. Okay, so if you create any object, go directly to this menu, set the values that you want, the segments, the depth, and everything that you need to get started on this object type. Okay, but there is a way to find this menu. Okay, that's actually is a shortcut. The shortcut is F9. So here it appears again, but there is a problem with it. You can add segments. Okay, you can add segments, you can add rings, but if you change the position of the cylinder, for example, let's move it to the right. Now if I try to press F9, I can access the segments and the rings. So this is quite a problem because you can rely on the F9, okay? So be aware of that, it's very important. When you create something, go directly to this menu, set the properties, set the numbers, and move forward. Okay. Okay, so let's make a recap of everything that we've learned. Okay, so the first thing is the shortcut, that is Shift A, to add object types, and also you can add it by just clicking on this menu, the menu Add. And as we saw, we have a lot of kind of object types. So for example, the torus, this is this kind of sphere, this UV sphere, it's another one, a circle, curves, and let me see, a text. You can create logos, or you can just type something in there. Let me see, empties, cameras, and lights as well. Where's the light? We have to select the kind of light, the type of light. So for example, a spotlight. And each of these objects has its own set of properties. So the light has the light properties, the curve. If we select the curve over here, we have like the curve properties, the mesh properties, the camera properties, the text properties. Okay, so, and also we have the cursor. You can position it wherever you want, and the cursor will always be our start point. So wherever object we create, it will be always placed in the cursor. Okay, guys, so I think that's it for now for the lessons of today, and I hope you have enjoyed, and see you in the next lesson.